Hello everyone, I am Pragya Srivastav. I am here to record a lecture on VLSI technology. The course code is KEC053. Presently we are discussing its unit 2, that is epitaxy and oxidation. In the present unit which is going on, we were discussing oxidation. So what is oxidation? The most useful and the most general use of oxidation is to mask during the dopant incorporations. The oxide layer acts as an insulator. The oxide layer acts as an insulator and it protects the certain region through which we do not want any doping or any contamination to take place. So for this purpose, we can open some windows in this oxide. Through this, doping will through those places doping will take place, and so oxide layer can be used as a mask. Also, it is for the device isolation, as it provides insulation between the two devices. Further, there is a term called thermal oxidation. Thermal oxidation is a process that alters the chemical composition of silicon wafer. Through this process, what happens is the surface of the wafer gets converted into silicon dioxide. Now, it means we are exposing the silicon bar to the oxygen, which has different mechanical and electrical properties, of course. So, these oxide films, the film thickness is measured in nanoscale. Let's talk about, we already know about thickness. The tolerance is plus minus 5%, or it can be even better in some cases. There can be a kind of dry oxidation, wet oxidation, and the combined which one is wet and dry. So here we see it is a silicon wafer, and on that wafer we have successfully incorporated a layer of silicon dioxide, and this process is called oxidation. This process is called oxidation. So it is oxide of silicon. So of course we need to have silicon, plus we need to expose it to oxygen environment. Next comes is the oxidation process is chiefly used in the form silicon dioxide. There can be two types, thin oxide and thick oxide. What happens is, let us consider a wafer, and here let us consider that we have two wells here. Of course, one of them will be a source terminal, another will be a drain terminal, and the remaining portion will act as a gate. So just below this gate we will have a layer of thin oxide. So this layer of thin oxide is this one, and remaining regions will be a region of thick oxide. So both are different. The time involved is different. The electrical properties are different. So this one is like fast. This one is slow. Okay. So this one is dry oxidation, and this one is wet. It has better electrical properties. It has poor electrical properties. Now we can see gate oxide is a thin film under a conducting channel, can be formed between source to drain. So the gate region is a thin oxide layer below which a conducting channel can be formed. Field oxide is a thick layer of silicon dioxide which acts as an insulation between the neighboring devices. Semiconductors can be oxidized by various methods: thermal oxidation, electrochemical anodization, plasma reaction. Among these methods, thermal oxidation is far more important and it is the most common. Let's discuss what is dry and wet oxidation. This one is silicon exposed to a oxygen environment, here it will be a gives out arrow giving out silicon dioxide. In another case we have silicon. So this is of course dry. Okay, it's written here. Silicon plus twice H2O, and of course this gives out silicon dioxide and twice of H2. The oxidation temperature is generally of the range of 900 to 1200 degrees Celsius, and the typical gas flow rate is about 1 liter per minute. Oxides can be grown. These oxides can be grown in dry environment, but for this dry environment we will have better electrical properties, and of course it will considerably more time is required to grow same oxide of same thickness in the same temperature in dry oxygen than in wet. What happens is this: let's say we are doing the process in absence of water. So for the same amount of time to achieve the process in absence of hydrogen, in absence of wet environment, to achieve better electrical properties, we achieve a very thin layer for the same amount of time. So we say that wet oxidation is fast and this one is slow. So here time required is more, here time required is less. So for the same amount of oxidation, the thin oxide layer requires more time, whereas the thick oxide layers grows fast and it requires less time. For relatively thin oxides such as gate oxide in a MOSFET, typically 120 nanometer, dry oxidation is used. However, for thicker oxides such as field oxides, 120 nanometer, in MOSFET ICs, oxidation in water vapor or stream is used. Here again we have an apparatus. So just as we have this quartz boat, in this quartz boat we have several discs which are placed one after the another, and of course they see like they are touching each other, but there is sufficient space between them. So of course the oxygen and all the required gases is very easily entering in between the space, and oxidation is getting carried on. So here is the inlet. So these gases should rather enter like this, not like this, and of course the used gases will escape out. And here we have heaters placed just above the susceptor, and it is a ceramic support, and this is the exhaust tube where the unused gases can move out. So oxidation systems are conceptually very simple. In practice today, vertical furnace RTO systems and fast ramp furnace all find use. Oxidation process, here we have a silicon dioxide surface, and then we have a original silicon interface here, and here is the silicon substrate. So this is a layer which we are talking about, which is nothing but SiO2, either grown with the help of dry oxidation or wet oxidation. Silicon reacts with oxygen to form silicon dioxide. As we have already discussed, the entire surface is covered with silicon dioxide. The part of grown oxide is rising above the original silicon surface, and some part is going below the silicon surface. Silicon is being consumed in order to form the silicon dioxide. So for analysis of area of silicon consumed, we can calculate molecular weight. We can see, you can calculate the molecular weight, and we can analyze the area of silicon which is consumed. Now we can see here is a comparative analysis of the oxidation process under different pressure conditions. So it is a Deal and Grooves model. It is a Deal and Grooves model. So Deal and Grooves model depicts various, it is a very important model when it comes to oxidation. It predicts that oxidation growth rate should be directly proportional to oxidant pressure and it is valid for wet oxidation only. So let's consider an environment where the dopant pressure is there, and another where the oxidant pressure is not there. So let's imagine any layman could understand, wherever you put more pressure to the system, the oxide thickness and the time required to grow the same layer would be less. So let's say we are putting a pressure of 20 atm. Okay, so for a pressure of 20 atm, you see this 2 mm of layer, like in 2 mm of layer can be grown in just 1 hour. Okay, so now let's talk about 10 atm. So we are reducing the pressure has been reduced. So let's talk about a condition where the temperature has been reduced to 10 atm. So here we see, for the same thickness, still I want 2 micrometer thickness. For the same thickness at 10 atm, I require a time which is more than 2 hours. So when the pressure was 20, a thickness of 2 micro would require 2 hours. Sorry. It would be just 1 hour. Now again, when the pressure has reduced to 10 atm, the same thickness of 20 micrometer is requiring a time of 2 hours. So this is the blue curve, this one, and this is the red curve, this one. So this is the terminology and this is the process which is happening. So as simple as this, when we are decreasing the pressure, the time required is increasing. If we look at the figure once again, the total thickness, total width of the hashed area, that is 1000 angstrom, 450 angstrom is below the black line and 500 angstrom is above the black line. It has consumed below the black line is the region of silicon that is consumed. So 450 angstrom of silicon has been consumed, and 500 and 550 angstrom is above the original surface. That is why if we form an oxide and then selectively etch it, we'll get a indentation and the surface itself. That is because some part of silicon was consumed wherever the oxide was formed. Now we have to go through what is oxidation kinematics. The oxidation can be done in various methods. If we boil the silicon in nitric acid, for example, we'll form oxide layer. So this is called chemical oxidation. So for better oxidation technique, we go to thermal oxidation of silicon. The quality of thermal oxidation is by far the better than the oxides that are grown on silicon. Therefore, the thermal oxidation is the most common and it is widely used in VLSI. Most common. The principle of thermal oxidation is very simple. We can take silicon sample, put it inside a ceramics furnace. We will be raising the temperature, and then we'll allow the inflow of oxygen and water vapor only if it's wet oxidation. Silicon will try reacting with the oxygen in presence or absence of water. So in absence of water, it will be dry oxidation. In presence of water, it will be wet oxidation. So by radioactive tracers, it has been established that it is the movement of oxidizing species, either oxygen or water vapor, into the silicon that is causing the oxidation. So both the oxidizing species, that is either oxygen or water, it is actually helping in oxidation. So in this oxidation model, we have to see that let's imagine that the concentration Cg is the concentration of gas molecules, Cs is the concentration of solid phase molecules, and this is the inner interface, this is the outer interface, and it is the distance. This is the silicon wafer, this is the oxide layer, and here is, you know, the atmosphere or the ambient. So first of all, it was a gas molecule. It got you know, it has changed its phase, and it has transmitted, it has taken, it has solidified. Now from the outer interface, it has entered to inner interface, and here is the x is the distance from where the contact starts. It is this 0 is the distance from where the contact starts, and it is the x. So F1, F2 and F3 are the fixed constant. Now here kinetics of oxidation was predicted by Deal and Groove more than 30 years back in pioneering a journal in applied physics. Initially the oxide layer is not grown, and so you think that directly the oxide layer grows. No, the answer to this question is no, it is 0. But then as the oxidation process is proceeding, oxide layer on silicon will froze. Further oxidation is proceeding in the presence of already grown oxide layer, as shown in the previous figure, process 1. We have the oxidizing species in the gas. From the gas, the stream, it must transfer to the oxide gas interface. Second is, once these oxidizing species have reached the oxide gas interface, this is the oxide and gas interface. Okay, once it has reached the oxide gas interface, it must diffuse through the existing layer in order to reach the silicon oxide interface. Silicon oxide interface is this one. Silicon oxide interface is this one. So they want to react with silicon, they must move through already existing oxide layer into the silicon oxide layer interface. So once these oxidizing species reach the silicon dioxide interface, it must react with silicon there. So what happens is, so we have the movement of oxidizing species grown by these three phenomena. Here we have, as I have already told, the three flux are named as F1, F2, F3, and concentration of oxidizing species in the various regions are following. So Cg is the concentration of oxidizing species in the bulk of gas. C stands for concentration, G stands for gas, and concentration of oxidizing species in bulk of gas. Cs, of course, C is concentration, and S that is right next to the gas oxide surface. C stands for oxidizing of the oxidizing species, whereas Cs is the concentration of oxidizing species right next to the gas. Now what is C naught? What is C1? What is C star? It is the concentration of oxidizing species at the outer interface. Ci is the inner interface. We have to see this outer interface, and this is not C1, this is Ci, which is inner interface. Now what is C star? It is the equilibrium condition, where C star is like it is defined as the equilibrium concentration on the oxide boundaries. Now we have a special equation where F1 can be defined as Hg into Cg minus Cs. So what is this Hg? It is proportionality constant here. F1 can also be written in terms of Hg Pg minus Ps by Kt. So here we know that Pv equals to Kt relation we know from the so the above is the Henry's law, which states the equilibrium of concentration of species within the solid, and the concentration of species within a solid is proportional to the partial pressure of the species which is surrounding the gas. Now again, C star is the equilibrium concentration, and here Henry's law, you know that C star is going to be proportional. So C star is H into Pg, and similarly when we write C naught, it is like H into Ps. So when C naught is proportional to Ps, whereas Ps is the partial pressure of the oxidizing agent. Of course, Ps is the same partial pressure when talked for a gaseous state. Similarly, we have defined F1, sorry, now F2. F2 is D into C naught minus Ci by X. So here we see that it is a linear approximation method, and here the proportionality constant is the diffusion constant, and X is the thickness of the existing oxide layer. Now here comes the third equation, which is F3 is equals to Ks. Ks is again the proportionality constant, which is giving the reaction rate, and Ci is again concentration at the inner surface. So after we achieve a relation where F1 equals to F2 equals to F3, a steady state condition is achieved, which is by solving the equation expressions, and we get C1 and C0. The value of C1 and C0 can be obtained. So this is the required equation. We see that this is the relation obtained previously, and here we can see that Ci has been achieved here, and like we are moving this Ks here, Ci has been received. This is the relation between oxidizing species, and we put this value at F3. So after equating F1 to F3, we get this result. Similarly, we will get C0. With the help of mathematical shift, we have achieved the value of C0, and we can make it independent of H. We can divide this H to numerator and denominator, and this is the final expression. And this is C0 here. Previously, we have achieved C1. So this was all about oxidation from my side, and we will be studying the next topics in my next lecture. Thank you.